Welcome back to part 2 of lecture number 12. We were discussing some changes within the black community during the 1920s, an era that for some members they began to dub the era of the new Negro. This was a term coined by Harvard-educated philosopher Dr. Alain Locke in his book The New Negro, An Interpretation, in which he asserted that it was time for the black community to use culture to try and alleviate the incessant racism that they labored under at all times. He declared that it was time for the community to declare our spiritual declaration of independence. We'll see a wealth of musical and literary talent emerging as a byproduct of this call to arms. A younger generation of musicians, for example, such as Count Basie, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Willie Smith, will introduce a fusion of black musical styles that will become known as jazz to urban audiences, both black and white, not just here in the United States, but around the world. In literature, African American artists were also encouraged to express themselves more fully. Black novelists, poets, painters, and playwrights began to create works rooted in their own experience instead of simply imitating white styles of literature or art. This is a period sometimes referred to as the Harlem Renaissance. And it was characterized by a younger generation of writers and musicians and thinkers beginning to break away from white norms of doing things, white ways of doing things, and instead exploring their rich cultural heritage and traditions, emphasizing, in fact, in some cases, their African roots for the first time. We'll also see a younger generation of white artists and writers and thinkers exploring what it means to be an American during this period of rapid transition. Young intellectuals begin criticizing mass consumer culture, worried over the plight of the poor and the emotional shallowness of city life. You'll see that writers such as F. Scott Fitzgerald in The Great Gatsby will sort of explore these themes of loneliness and alienation in a society that is moving so fast around them. Or playwright Eugene O'Neill, who created characters haunted by despair, loneliness, and unfulfilled longing. In addition to writers and artists, farmers were another group of Americans disenchanted with the Roaring Twenties. As crop prices dropped again, we will see that American farmers will once more despair about where they fit in this rapidly evolving society. Many Americans also experienced a loss of identity. Farmers, for example, had long perceived themselves as the backbone of the nation, honest, hard-working individuals, but their way of life, they felt, was under attack. Unfortunately, we're going to see some Americans lashing out against all of this change. Americans will put pressure on the U.S. Congress to begin heavy immigration restriction during the 1920s. We will also see the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s, much stronger and much more widespread throughout the nation, as this hate group begins to embrace ideas such as anti-immigrant sentiment, anti-Catholic sentiment, as well as anti-black agitation. We will also see a rise in so-called organized crime during the era that became known as Prohibition. When the 18th Amendment took effect in January of 1920, all alcohol was now banned in the United States. This paved the way for certain unscrupulous individuals to begin bootlegging alcohol, carrying it secretly and selling it illegally across the United States. Some of these organized crime families also delved into prostitution, human trafficking, and many other horrors during the period.